Here on the early line. So, look, we've gone through what we're watching tonight in the NBA, but a lot of talk about March Madness still, as now you have the Final Four set. Went through how the weekend shook out with the last half of the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Now you've come down to the Final Four, and, I mean, it is just brands on brands on brands on brands when it comes to college basketball. Duke, Kansas, Villanova, and North Carolina, that makes up your Final Four. Get over to the 1045 ESPN the 1045 ESPN Twitter page. You can vote there on today's Citizens Bank poll question of the day. Best NCAA championship matchup, the one you're hoping for the most. UNC Kansas, Villanova UNC, Duke Kansas, or Villanova Duke. Again, 1045 ESPN Twitter page to vote on today's Citizens Bank poll question of the day. Now, when you look at it, obviously, like I said, brands on brands on brands. A lot of talent, star power all over the floor, whether it be, make it Manic or Love or
Colin Gillespie, who's played in like his 25th game.
Abaji from Kansas. I mean, Duke, obviously, no shortage of talent up and down that roster. So you've got all the star power you want there. When you look at the odds, I'm a little surprised at a couple of them. Okay, I'm not surprised at all that Duke is your betting favorite at plus 155. They're a very good offensive team. They also, name power, staying power, whatever. It's also Coach K's last season, and that does matter. That does matter, and they look pretty close to unbeatable currently right now. They've been on a great run here through March. That's after losing the final game of the regular season to UNC. That's after bowing out in the ACC tournament against Virginia Tech, who would eventually win the thing. They've gotten here to March, and they've just gone on a run, and they look really good. That's not surprising to me at all. Seeing Kansas at plus 185, we talked about it in the last segment. We probably would have both said they were both maybe the weakest of the one seeds, even though Baylor wasn't all the way at full strength. Those two teams split the regular season series. Abaji hadn't been playing well in the tournament, but they've just kept winning, and they're the lone one seed left. So it would stand to reason that they're going to have pretty good odds. Villanova, you mentioned they lost old boy to
Justin Moore
to the Achilles at the very end of that game. I like Colin Gillespie a lot. I think he's very good. I love their ability at the free throw line. And, Jay Wright is just one of, if not the best coaches in college basketball. Is Jay Wright the best?
Hunt asked this question on the last show. Is Jay Wright the best pure basketball coach in college basketball right now?
It's hard to argue against.
I would say it is.
It really is. It's what we talked about against Houston. Look, I understand Houston's hot right now and they're playing well. But if you're going to give me points with Jay Wright, I'm going to take those points. And look what happened. Same thing kind of rings true here. They're catching points against Kansas, and it's like, look, Bill Self's a good coach. Jay Wright's a better basketball coach than Bill Self.
Absolutely.
So, I would, it might not be the most fairest way to do it, but I would counter that question with another question. Who would you put above him? I think he is. Coach K is obviously great, but
in recent history,
not so much. And I would think that Jay Wright's a better pure basketball coach
because it's hard to recruit to Villanova. It really is. He doesn't have 4 or 5 stars walking through the door every year like Coach K. And credit to Coach K. However, he does it. He pulls these guys on campus. But yeah, as far as X's and O's, man, Jay Wright's got them
by the book. Coach K does everything by the book.
Dick Vitale told me that, so I believe it.
We know this. But no, you're right. And consistently year in and year out for Villanova to be there as they are. Hey, man, it's tough to argue against Jay Wright. His teams just play complementary basketball and balance. They're never out of any game.
Well, that's the thing. We were talking about they shot 28% and won the game. Why'd they win the game? Because as a team, they went 15 for 15 from the free throw line, which is why they're the best free throw shooting team in the entire country. You can shoot 28% and still win an Elite 8 basketball game. That's just because you're balanced all around, because you're going to play good defense, you're going to hit your foul shots, and they limited the number of times that their opponent goes to the foul line. So, yeah, all around, that's a safe pick.
Yeah, and at plus 450, that's really good value. And then there's the last team, who I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect to have the longest odds coming in. I probably would have pegged Villanova as that team, especially after the injury to Moore. North Carolina is your long shot at 5-1, plus 500 still for the Tar Heels, and they are quite possibly the hottest team in this entire tournament. I really like North Carolina at plus 500 to win it all. From a value perspective, but also just logically. They have to face Duke, but they beat Duke in the last meeting. Now, handily. On the road in Cameron. when you had all the emotion surrounding Coach K. So that's not going to matter to them whatsoever. Oh, it's his last Final Four. Who cares? It was his last game there.
It was his last game because I didn't think there was any way that Duke was going to lose the game in Cameron during his last game. I didn't think that was possible. And they lose by like 25.
Couldn't have been happier that they did either, by the way. It was hilarious. But anyway, you also look at Baycott and Manick and Love. It very much feels like to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but if North Carolina gets past Duke, they're winning the whole thing. Like, that's just how it feels like Duke is that last hurdle. If you can get over them, there's not going to be another team left that can beat North Carolina.
Look, you'd be hard-pressed to argue against it. I'm still going with Villanova, but for personal reasons. I picked them in my bracket to win, so I can't bet against them now. But, yeah, as far as who's hot, who's the best odds, we spent half a segment earlier talking about the different ways that North Carolina can hurt you. Down low, Caleb Love draining 30. RJ Davis, who they don't really ask to do a ton offensively, he scores 27 against Baylor, ousts them, hit 6 threes in that game, went like 6 for 9 from behind the arc. They just have so many different guys that could step up their game.
They have scores all over the court.
They do.
And if you miss, they're grabbing the rebound. Like they're going to out-rebound just about anybody that they play. They're good from the line. They're not Villanova good, but nobody is. They're literally the best team in the country at it. North Carolina is probably the most balanced team in this Final Four outside of Villanova, in my opinion. I think Kansas, we've talked about their inconsistencies. Duke, as great as they are offensively, they've been prone to going on some shooting spell. Like, they've gone in some slumps throughout games. Hadn't happened recently in this tournament, but throughout the season, that's been a problem for Duke.
Well, so even if North Carolina does that, going back to Villanova a little bit, they're similar teams because North Carolina has the guys on the defensive side of the ball that can slow you down if it's not working on the offense. Leaky Black, ACC player, defensive player of the year. You got Puff Johnson, which, let's stop for a second.
Another great name.
Is Leaky Black and Puff Johnson the greatest duo in college basketball name-wise?
I think I actually kind of lean Puff Johnson there.
So here's my question. What extracurricular does he do to get the nickname Puff? I'll leave it at that.
I think you know.
But
I don't know.
So Leaky Black, maybe. Defensive player of the year in the ACC. Puff Johnson off the bench. He's known as a defensive guy. Brady Manick plays good defense. We've seen the rebounds Baycott gets. So even if they don't have everything going on the offensive side, they're still a dangerous team, and that's why I kind of give them the edge over Duke. I think they play a lot better defense.
I look, and you look at the spread for that game. So, I mean, that's already been set, and Duke's a 4-point favorite on a neutral floor there. You look at the spread in Villanova, Kansas. Kansas is a 4.5-point favorite. It's hard to not kind of like the dogs in both of those. I think if there were one that I would lean toward a favorite, and this is going to be completely contradictory to everything I said, but it would be Duke. I think North Carolina's great value. I think they have a phenomenal shot to win it all.
I think Duke's better than Kansas is what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to, and it's just everything else around it. Duke feels very unbeatable right now. That's why part of that reasoning for me is if North Carolina, who I think might actually be a better basketball team than Duke, they're at least constructed better maybe, if they can get past them, it feels like that's their last hurdle and they're going to go all the way. But everything surrounding Duke would make me lean to them as the favorite that would actually cover as opposed to Kansas. I'm not that big of a believer in Kansas. Look, and I like Jay Wright.
This is a nice blue blood final, but how thrilled are you that Duke and North Carolina have to play in the Final Four to avoid it being in the championship game? I mean, I just think the national media would lose their minds if they got a Duke-North Carolina national title game. Yeah, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that they're on the same side of this bracket.
I think it's actually better, just because that matchup in New Orleans, that's going to be a incredible scene in the Superdome when those two teams. I'm actually excited to watch that game. Very excited. I know a lot of people are gonna crap on the Blue Blood Final Four and whatever. Do you really want to see St. Peter's in there and get destroyed? Like that? No. That's how that was going to end.
Unless I knew they had a legitimate shot to win.
But they didn't. That's the thing.
No, they never did.
That's how it ends for those teams normally when they go that deep.
Typically, it's Sweet 16 and out.
Yeah, but I mean, look at George when LSU made the Final Four last. George Mason in 2006, they got destroyed. Like they got destroyed.
And everybody's like, "Oh, George Mason, they're gonna." They
got destroyed by
Florida. They were a great team, but
national champions. But
yeah,
it's just that's how that ends, and that's how it was going to end for St. Peter's, whether it was going to be in the Elite Eight or the Final Four or wherever. They were going to get blown out. So I don't really want to see that. I think both these games are going to be very competitive, and I am excited. Now
I like Villanova, North Carolina.
That's my early lean as well. I'm not gonna lie, it scares me going both dogs on it, but early lean for me here on Monday. I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I think North Carolina's better than Duke.
I do too. Especially now.
I think they're a better team.
The run they've been on, I thought they were better in the regular season.
Yeah.
Now that they've won all these games and they're the hottest team in the country, I definitely think so.
So, I mean, it's at plus 500 again. I think that's obviously your best value. It just happens to be the longest shot in the tournament, remaining in the tournament as well. But I like Hubert Davis' squad a lot here heading in. Again, if they get past Duke, I think they're going. I think that's the last hurdle is the Duke Blue Devils.